Welcome to the Rick Solem Show here on WIZM 92.3 FM, 106.7 FM if you're north of Alaska. Jill Schams, the Crosse Education Association president, otherwise the Lacrosse Teachers Union president, in studio with me in the middle, towards the end of her vacation, right? Her summer vacation.
Summer break is coming to a close.
And I'm sure that's like a happy, sad feeling.
Yeah, there's some mixed emotions there. Ready to send kids. Parents are ready to send their kids back to school.
The Crosse Education Association consists of how many teachers?
So of our 600-ish teachers in lacrosse, we have about 70% membership. So about 400.
And does it consist of anything else? I ask you this every time.
Yeah,
but
we represent just teacher contracts.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how many of those teachers do you think do get a summer vacation?
A lot of teachers work summer jobs, 2 summer jobs. A lot of teachers, educators work an extra job during the school year. So it's probably pretty mixed.
Do they, now when you say summer jobs, that's outside of the district. Do some of them have the opportunity to continue working
Absolutely.
in the classroom?
Yep, there's summer school that's going on, and there's different supervising, there's lots of activities that happen all summer long, and sports keep going, and so there's opportunities within the school district.
All right.
Yep.
On the show today, we're going to talk about the Trane walkthrough. Jill took that tour yesterday with media and the school board and whoever else was on that tour. Our Kevin Millard was there. Also, building consolidation and school updates. This is kind of the outlook, and it kind of has to do with Trane, right? Like there's going to be a new elementary school opening in a year from now-ish, right?
Yep.
And then State Road Elementary is now Pamel Creek, and will that be updated this year?
They're working on it. The consolidation won't happen until next year. The 2 schools won't combine, but the work at that school will be completed this year.
Okay, so there'll be a lot of guys walking around with hard hats around State Road Elementary. Kids are going to get it firsthand.
Oh, yes.
Continue that anyway. With all this consolidation, I want to talk about teacher retirement and layoffs. That was part of a school board meeting on Monday night. Other things. Politically, the governor's race is happening. I kind of wonder if you have, as a organization or a association, if you guys endorse in the governor's race or even the legislature. Sticking with politics, there was an appeals court ruling on Act 10, that ruling that Scott Walker, what was that, 2010? Is that the year? 2010, 2011, right. The Scott Walker, what do you want to call that, union busting in Wisconsin ruling that sent a couple people to Madison protesting.
A couple thousand, 100,000.
Beyond a couple 100,000, yeah. Just I maybe understated that. And then the other thing's just looking ahead to the future here with Trane Building, with the new elementary schools, and that kind of has to do with the layoffs that the district, the school board heard about last night. But when it comes to here and now, we start school again early this year. You're sadly for you, I say, like 2 weeks or so away from school starting, which is a rule by the state, says you can't start school until September 1st, but La Crosse School District starts August 20th, and you have to ask permission for that, huh?
We do. We have to apply for a waiver from the state, from the Department of Public Instruction, to start school before September 1st, and we have to have a good reason for that. And our good reason is that the school district provides busing to the private schools in the area, the Lutheran schools, the Catholic schools, and they generally start middle to the end of August. And so in providing that busing, that's about a $200,000 cost to the district. And if we're going to be running those buses for a handful of kids, we might as well run those buses for all of our kids. And then the benefit is that we get a little extra break during the school year, and then we're done before Memorial Day.
Okay, couple of things. First of all, the district does this. The district asks
the district applies for a waiver from the state.
Does the district ask you, hey, teachers, we want to start early?
Yeah. There is a calendar committee that meets every year, and that's a 2-year in advance process. So we're looking at 2 years down the road for the calendar that will come out.
Okay, so they asked you this last year when they did this, and you were good with it. We're
Yep.
good with it for 2 years. We'll renegotiate.
Yep, we have staff on the calendar committee that says, if we start early, are people okay with that? It gives these opportunities. During that process, it was, do we want a whole week of fall break and a whole week of spring break and a winter break? Do we want 2 of those, 1 of those? How early do you want to get out? Do you want to keep being done with school the last week of May, or do you want to go into, what are the options there? And so in a general consensus, we kind of came to, let's start a little early, end a little early, have some breaks in the middle.
A little bit of everything
Yeah.
there, as opposed to just like pulling the whole year back, way back.
Yep. Yep.
So we went through that 1 year. We went through that last year.
Yeah.
Did you just feel like it went well?
Yeah, I think overall people were pretty satisfied with it. Having a week off for spring break was very popular with staff and with families. The superintendent will always say, we're in the business of reminding us that we're in the business of educating children. So just taking days off willy-nilly is not part of our plan and process. We want to make sure that kids are in school, being cared for, being educated and fed. But we also know that kids need a break from,
that was my next question. Does having a fall break, a spring break, a winter break, does that help kids or get them out of the norm?
Yeah, sometimes, if you have too many breaks, then the consistency is interrupted. But we get to that spring feverish kind of time of year. We've been cooped up all winter. The days start to get a little nicer, and then there is kind of a rejuvenation that happens having that week off in the spring.
Mm-hmm.
If families are able to travel a little bit or maybe do some things around town and at home with their kids or family, it's kind of nice to rejuvenate and then end the school year off strong.
And then the other half of that equation is that maybe people don't know this. The public school is paying for the busing of private schools, and also private schools don't have to abide by the state rule that says you need to start school by September 1st. And I don't know, I feel like private schools should be able to start when they want, but also public schools could maybe start when they want, because isn't it a tourism thing is why we start September 1st? Because kids got to work out of the water slides at Noah's Ark.
Historically, I think the reasons were that the Dells in particular needed the workforce. And I don't know that that's as true as it used to be.
Yeah.
And more schools, I think, around the state are applying for waivers to start earlier. This was the trend, back in the 80s and 90s to start school in August. The summer days start to drag on. The dog days of summer start to get to you. And we are ready to go back and be with our friends and our colleagues and do that learning again. So I think all in all, it's been a good, positive change.
All right. I'm going to ask you after the other end of the break about the politics of that. And could we see that change permanently in the legislature and then and some other stuff surrounding that. Jill Schams, the Teachers Union president here in La Crosse, the La Crosse Education Association president. You're listening to the Rick Solem Show here on WIZM 92.3 FM, 106.7 FM. We'll be back. Welcome back to the Rick Solem Show here on WIZM 92.3 FM, 106.7 FM. Jill Schams, the Teachers Union president here in La Crosse, the La Crosse Education Association president in the studio. We got done at the end of the break talking about when school starts and the rules for that. And the state says the rule is you got to start after September 1st. Is that something you guys could negotiate with the legislature and get rid of that rule? It seems like I don't know, is it pandemonium if every school district got to start school when they wanted?
I guess I don't know, what the benefits of that would be if everybody got to choose start and end dates. I mean, school districts have the option to end school when they want, as long as they have the number of days, provided for. And likewise, if one school district has to have a snow day and the other one doesn't, they have to adjust their calendars.
Right. Well, and some schools are full. Do we have a year-round school anymore in the school district here?
We do not have any more year-round schools. Yeah. That was a trend for a while. I think we saw the results of that were kind of mixed, and so we went away from that model. I don't know if there are other communities that are still doing that.
I'm sure there are. Why did we get rid of that? Is there a big
What we found was that the intent was that there would be less gaps in learning. Kids would be going to school more consistently without big breaks.
Was it like a 6-week on, 2-week off? Or do you remember? It was more than that.
It was more than 45 days on, 15 days off.
Okay.
Something like that. And the hope was to, reduce the lag in learning.
Right.
What we found was that there really wasn't any solid results that was the case. And so having two different schedules in the same district was hard on parents, hard on staff. It's hard when you share staff between buildings, if one's on a year-round schedule and one's on a traditional schedule, there's just a lot of things.
Yeah, and I don't know what's harder as a parent. You would know. Is it harder to figure out what to do with your kids for 2-week periods all year, or is it just figure out the summer all year?
Right, and that's depending on your work schedule and your family situation, that can be tough. If it's only elementary kids that are going year round, but you have secondary kids that are going traditional, then you're on two different calendars. So
yeah.
That's kind of why we went away from that. And
you either got to go all in or all out. I think,
and that's a societal change if you're going to go to year-round school.
All right, so back to the legislature. Is there a world here where do you want that? You want that option, right?
I think it's good for school districts to have that option. I mean, you know, when a school district has to do major construction projects, maybe they only have, you know, 3 buildings in a small district, and they're doing a major construction project. They might have to delay the start of school to finish that project, and so they apply for a waiver from the state to adjust their dates for that reason. So, you know, would it be appropriate for everybody to just pick we're going to get 180 days in?
Can we not just trust each school district to get the number of days in? Because they're not going to not have that. And it'd be like, it's like asking mom and dad if I can delay school because State Road Elementary is getting a big update.
Right. Yeah.
Like, why does the state government have to come in there?
From my perspective, there wouldn't be any issue with allowing districts to choose their timelines. You know, politicians may have a different opinion on that. And maybe it's just a rule that's been in place so long that people have forgotten why it's even a rule anymore.
Yeah, who knows? Sticking with politics, governor's race. Do you guys endorse a candidate or even legislature? Do you do any of that? As the Crosse Education Association.
In a governor's race, the LEA does not specifically make an endorsement, but we do typically follow or accept the endorsement of our state affiliate union, which is the Wisconsin Education Association Council, or WEAC. And this time, the WEAC has endorsed Kelda Royce as our preferred candidate, so the LEA has taken that recommendation in the upcoming primary.
Is that something that do you feel comfortable we didn't talk about this before the show, but like, do you like Kelda Royce? What is it about Kelda Royce? Do you know?
I do. We've hosted her. The LEA has hosted her twice here in the last few months for some informal meet and greets. She has a really good track record. She has a very solid plan for education, specifically with dismantling and ending the voucher program, which is really crippling our public schools. So much money is being taken off the first cut and going to private voucher schools, which have no, accommodations or accountability, and it's just bleeding our public schools dry. And when more than 90% of students in our state attend public schools, and that 10% are getting the first bite of the apple, that really just seems like a punch to the gut. So
the last time I saw figures, it was like around $2 million in the La Crosse school district goes to voucher schools.
Yeah, and that doesn't mean it's just going to local.
Yeah, it doesn't
vouchers.
stay here. It
can go to any school, and in particular, small school districts that don't have a private school within their boundaries, they're still paying money from their local taxes to go to some voucher school somewhere else in the state.
Right, and then I don't know if you know this, the La Crosse County Board is trying to put voucher schools on the tax bill, or some form of that. Yeah. I don't know if the phrasing is right there, but
to put a line item on the tax bill, that's something that the teachers union had been starting to advocate for, and we were actually just in the process of writing a letter to the municipalities to do this when the school board presidents kind of started making this motion as well, and so it was just really good timing that they could kind of take that over as an initiative. So it's something that we definitely support. Just a transparency in where your tax dollars are going,
Yep, and when it comes to voucher schools, I talked to Kelda Royce about this a little bit, the dismantling of the system there. And she was saying it would happen statewide pretty quickly. I don't remember the time frame for like giving voucher money to the schools in like our area. Mm-hmm. But she said the Milwaukee timeline would be a lot longer. And I was like, I don't understand that. I don't think voters here would understand, why does Milwaukee? Because we already do that as politics, right? We point to Milwaukee and go, well, they're different. Right. And
yeah.
Can you explain that a little bit?
I don't even really understand the minutia of it because it is very complex. But basically, from what I know, the Milwaukee voucher program started first as a way to give opportunity to lower income students to attend schools maybe in their neighborhood or that they wouldn't never necessarily have access to. And then it has spread throughout the state.
I know there's a big online school, and I think it's in Milwaukee, but that doesn't matter. I like your kid here could go to that online school. Right. Is it that it's so ingrained in Milwaukee's school system that if you just snapped your fingers and got rid of the voucher schools, there would be too many kids to go to I think there would. Milwaukee, I can't even name Milwaukee school anymore.
one of their local public schools.
They would need to they would need a train to donate a building to them, right? Or something like that.
Yeah, the way it's structured, it is just such a
so you do
large
have
segment.
to slow walk it.
I think there has to be a transition process.
Or maybe maybe even some of them private schools need to abide by the public school rules and turn into public schools or something like that.
Yeah. And certainly we want parents to have choice in their children's education. I just feel that if you want to make that choice to go to a private school, then you pay the tuition, and it shouldn't come out of the taxpayers' dollars.
Jill Schams, the Crosse Education Association president, the teachers union president here in La Crosse. We got to take a break. You're listening to the Rick Solem Show here on WIZM, 92.3 FM, 106.7 FM. When we come back, we're going to talk about that Trane Building. Jill walked through it yesterday, so we're going to get her take on that. We'll be back. Welcome back to the Rick Solem Show here on WIZM, 92.3 FM, 106.7 FM if you're north of Onalaska. Jill Schams is the teachers union president, the La Crosse Education Association president, or LEA, and we've been talking about politics a little bit, and just when school starts. School's going to start here pretty quick. I don't want to remind Jill of that, but I'm sure she thinks about that every day when she wakes up at 11 o'clock. You didn't really get a complete summer break, as maybe, I don't know if it's because you're the teachers union president or just this is the teacher's life in general. We think about, the teachers, they get these 3 months off, and you said at the beginning of the show, well, a lot of them get second and third jobs because they just got to make ends meet. But what did you do over summer break? Did you take time off?
Yeah, well, and first of all, I always say when people say, "Oh, you teachers are so lucky, you get the summer off," I said, "Well, I'm not getting paid for the summer. I happen to get the paycheck during the summer, but it's only for the 9 months of teaching that we do, and that's the reason a lot of educators do have to take on a second job."
And you're an elementary music teacher.
Yes.
So I don't know, I could be wrong, but I'm thinking is there homework for the music teacher? But a lot of teachers aren't, the school day starts and the day starts a little different now. So I'm just going to say 8 to 3, but I think it's 9 to 4 or something like that in some different levels. But a 7-hour day, but it's not a 7-hour day either.
There's lots going on after that, grading and entering, report cards and supervising sports and all of those things. So it's not a punch the clock kind of job. It's definitely all encompassing. But as far as my summer, it was a mix of, working and fun a little bit, but I told my friends the first 46 days of summer break, I was gone for 26 of them. So it's kind of never ending, but we had some family trips, went to see some family in California, and we went camping in Duluth and saw Weird Al Yankovic concert. So that was pretty fun. But then I spent a week.
Did he sing Another One Rides the Bus?
Oh, yes. He did all the classics. It was my kids' first real big stadium concert. So that was pretty cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So
and then what about the work side of this?
Yeah. And so then I spent a week doing union work at the national level. That was in Denver this year. The location changes every year. And, it's definitely not a vacation. You're sitting in a convention hall with 7,000 other educators from all over the country and sometimes the world. And it's make a motion, second the motion, debate the motion, yay or nay, over and over and over again for 5 days.
When you're having those talks and talking to people from different states, is the problems that Wisconsin has with school funding and maybe even, Act 10 might not be a thing, but do you have more pity than other teachers?
Sometimes there are states that are similar to us in the issues we're facing with vouchers, declining enrollment, teacher shortages. Some of these things are nationwide issues. Every state has their own, different ways that they handle things, but it's a really good reminder of the vast greatness of public education in our country. This is the great equalizer, right? More than 90% of people attend public schools in our country, and they provide a great education, right? These are the people the kids are going to become your doctors and nurses and lawyers, and we want a highly educated workforce. We want, good results from our public schools. And so it's a great reminder of, that what we're doing matters, even though we don't see the payout of that for years to come.
Yeah. But you as a Wisconsin teacher just get to show your Act 10 card, right?
Yes, we do.
I don't know. I feel I think I read that Florida teachers are the lowest paid teachers.
I think they're pretty close.
Because the tax system in Florida is crazy.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Are we down there in Wisconsin?
We have dropped.
Yeah.
We used to be up towards the top 5, maybe even the top 3.
And you probably don't like advertising that, because then teachers be especially here in La Crosse, could be wait, Minnesota is where versus Wisconsin? I don't know the numbers. But.
I don't know the ranking right now. I know when I started teaching 20 years ago, I think Wisconsin was top 3 in the nation for education for being a teacher
Yeah.
in the field. And Act 10 definitely crippled that.
And I know I said we were going to talk about Trane, but like we're on Act 10. So the appeals court ruled against overturning Act 10 or parts of Act 10, right?
Yep.
Can you explain what happened here and what's going to happen?
Yeah, so I think it was 2 years ago now, even a judge had declared that portions of the Act 10 law were unconstitutional.
And I don't know if everybody knows. What is Act 10?
Act 10 was a law that was put in place by Governor Scott Walker at the time that basically stripped public sector unions of their bargaining rights.
Okay, except police and fire, right?
Except police and fire. And that's what this current lawsuit is challenging, is that you cannot treat public sector unions differently.
Right.
You know, if you're going to treat one, you treat both. And so to separate them out and say, well, you can keep your rights, but you don't get any.
Yeah.
And so that's what this is challenging. And so that initial ruling about 2 years ago was that those portions of that law were unconstitutional and should be overturned. Of course, it's now gone through many appeals over that time. This latest ruling was expected. It was in a pretty conservative jurisdiction, and the judges there, we expected to rule in that fashion.
Yeah.
And so now it will be appealed to the state Supreme Court, which was probably the intent,
right?
The long-term outlook. Anyway.
It's always kind of funny too, because when certain parties do this, they just go right to the state Supreme Court because the state Supreme Court is on their side.
Right.
And in this regard, you've actually gone through
have to
all of the steps.
Circumnavigate the whole thing.
You haven't skipped any steps, even though now it's going to inevitably go to the state Supreme Court. You kind of knew that was going to happen, but here we are. What would you like to see? What would happen if Act 10 or even
portions of it,
what would happen to the La Crosse School District, to you teachers?
Yeah, I mean, specifically for the LEA, we would be able to bargain with the district again full collective bargaining rights, which right now we're only legally able to bargain wages up to the rate of inflation and nothing else. So bringing back collective bargaining means that we can negotiate for every part of our working conditions, class sizes, work day, the hours we work, you know, what materials we need, and just basically anything that is part of our job to make sure that our staff and our educators are being treated fairly and that students are getting the high quality education that they deserve.
Now, when it comes to the La Crosse School District, I would assume that if any of those things were a big problem, you guys would be outspoken about it.
Oh, yes, very much so. Yeah.
I know in the past, I think we've talked about wages in terms of like inflation went way up and the wages didn't go way up. In fact, did you guys not take a raise one year? Isn't that?
There were several years, yes. Yeah.
We didn't take a raise just because of the pandemic and whatnot, right?
Yeah.
And I remember John Havlicek talking before a school board meeting about, hey, maybe we should get paid by the hour and punch in and punch out. You know, like you get that email at 10 o'clock from a parent. You got to punch in to read that email, or you not answer that email? Because I know I was going to bring this up before, but you said you've been teaching for 20 years. And I guess maybe 20 years ago, you were probably speaking to parents at all hours of the day because email exists there, but it's probably even more prevalent now. So, I mean, that maybe would be a part of these negotiations.
Absolutely.
Like after 8 o'clock, I don't speak to... You know, I don't do my job anymore in terms of like speaking to parents or getting a call from the superintendent or something like that.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
But in La Crosse, it's not to that dire effect, huh?
No, I mean, we do have a good relationship with the union and the district.
Until they hear this conversation.
No, you know, and there are times when we see eye to eye, and there are times when we don't.
Yeah.
Even this year during our salary negotiations, you know, it's not a smooth, you know, we'll take whatever you want to give us. You know, we're going to push back and say, you know, this is not enough and this is why. Our educators deserve a living wage and this is why. And so when there are things that come up that are very important to our members, that are crucial to being able to do our job and educate children, we do become more vocal, you know, and we try to do it in the most, you know, peaceful manner that we can.
Yeah, I don't think you were very outspoken on the rate, maybe 1 year during the pandemic. Even now, you don't go, Rick, I'm going to come on the show and bitch about wages. Like you don't. You've never done that.
Yeah,
and Jesse Martinez before you and Havlicek before you.
We're not coming out with the pitchforks.
Not yet.
Right. But we do use the the items that are at our disposal. We can have a conversation with the superintendent, with the school board. You know, if we need to write letters to the editor, editorials, things like that, there are ways to be vocal and let the public know that, you know, hey, your teachers are struggling and your kids may struggle too because of that. And we want the best for our community.
Yeah, I think it's just hard to understand because you have a good relationship with the school district here. So You almost have to go somewhere else to get. You should bring a guest on that doesn't have, or maybe you could provide an example of that if you talk to somebody. But all right, we got to take a break. We will talk about Jill's tour of the new donated Trane Building when we come back. You're listening to the Rick Sullivan Show here on WIZM 92.3 FM, 106.7 FM. We'll be back. The Teachers Union president here in La Crosse, in studio on the Rick Sullivan Show here on WIZM 92.3 FM, 106.7 FM. We're talking about Act 10 and it possibly getting overturned now that it goes to the state Supreme Court. I don't know when that, any idea? Is that going to be 2 years from now too?
Probably about a year from now.
Yeah. Okay. When we talk about like Act 10, getting rid of some of the negotiations that teachers unions have with the districts, does any of what's happening in the school district right now work into that? There's a new elementary school going up. There's updates to now Pamel Creek Elementary, and we've taken a donation from Trane for a new building. Would any of that like work into a factor where the union and the district collaborate?
Sure, yeah.
Or have divisive? Yeah,
I mean, when we talk about working conditions, how many sections, does a high school teacher teach? Do they have a reasonable workload, or is it too much? Those are the things that when we talk about consolidating classrooms, are we going to put 30 kids in an elementary classroom so that we can squeeze everybody into a couple smaller buildings, or do we have reasonable class sizes? So those are things that we would push back on if if things weren't looking good.
Would you push back on taking a Trane building, this huge building on the south side?
If it seemed like it wasn't good for the district, we would.
Well, and what is the teachers union stance on getting this donation from Trane?
We don't have an official stance. I feel very positive about it. A gift is a gift, and generally you accept gifts, very thankfully. And in this case, it's still pretty new. I think there's no real concrete plans with such a big facility. I think the school board has their work cut out for them in kind of revising their long-range plans, because they're looking, decades in the future of what the school district is going to need and what it will be. And when you throw a big facility like this in, that kind of it changes the whole formula.
Yeah, it's a giant hiccup when we've been talking for 6 years about building consolidation and we're going to close this school, that school. We're going to close 3 elementary schools, and now we're gonna what with a giant? I think maybe the biggest building in the district.
Yeah, by far.
So how is that even going to work into the?
And people ask me all the time, what do you think about this Trane donation? And I say, I think it will be great.
Yeah.
It's not going to be an instant, we can just fling open the doors and it's ready to go. It wasn't designed as an educational space for young children. It was designed as an administrative office building with some technical training spaces.
When you walk through there, could you see there's a lot of work, or were you like, no, this isn't going to be that hard?
I was more impressed than I thought it would be. And when you look at it from the outside, it looks kind of dark and gloomy. When you're inside, it's a huge space. It's way bigger than I thought it would be. And
it's 3 stories, right?
Yep, it's 2 stories on the long section, and then there's 3 stories on the north end.
And then there's a basement.
And
bad kids, right? No,
the basement was actually beautiful. I was really surprised.
Okay, and it's pretty open, from what I hear.
Yeah, I think every room I walked through had big windows, and from the outside, those windows are they look dark, whatever reflective coating they have on them.
Birds aren't flying into them, maybe.
No, yeah. From the inside, it was full of light. The first floor, they're starting to take out the cubicles that were in the administrative parts of the buildings, and you can see from east to west, window to window. It was very impressive. And generally, from my layman's look on things, it looks like the building's in very good shape. There's some updating that needs to be done, certainly. A little paint and, cleaner, replace the carpets, those kinds of things. But overall, I think structurally the building seems really good. There was no evidence of infestations or foxes as
cockroaches, I heard today.
Yes. Whatever rumors are flying around online, there was no evidence of any of that. There's a lot of work that will go into changing it over to be an educational space, either for teachers to do professional development or students to do learning, if that's something.
Yeah, what's your pipe dream? You guys as a union sit down and go, this is what we'd like. You probably are starting to hash out or thinking about it.
I don't know. Again, the school board will have the final say on how this building will be used.
But you want to lobby for that, for whatever it is you want, I would assume.
Yeah, I mean, I think we'll hear a lot from teachers and educators on, hey, we could really use some space in this building because what we have right now isn't working. And not every building will be that way, right? We have a lot of our facilities are working great. Things are cooking along. But, there are programs that we partner with at UWL or Viterbo where maybe we're sharing classroom spaces, and if we have a dedicated space, we could just use that. And it eliminates issues with parking or other things like that could come up. We have to rent out space at various places around town for professional development sometimes, or meetings, large group meetings. So there's opportunity to have those things built into our district then.
You think it's like 5 years before we figure out?
Well, I think this building will be utilized in phases.
Yeah.
I think phase one is going to be what can we utilize right now with a quick coat of paint and the vacuum cleaner.
We're gonna put all the hockey goals in there from gym class or something.
What can we use it for right now? And then what parts can we start developing? So I do think it will be at least a couple of years before the whole building is used. And maybe it won't all be used, for quite a while, and that's okay.
Yeah.
There's plenty of outdoor space. It sounds like soccer fields, a lacrosse field, maybe some tennis courts down the road. I think I even heard a little inkling about an ice rink.
Sand volleyball courts, anyone?
Yes.
Okay, last thing. That tour, and then you went to the school board meeting.
Yes.
And I'd be remiss to bring this up.
Yeah.
Real quick, we don't have a ton of time, and I shouldn't make you do this fast, but Engel did talk about teacher layoffs down the road with the new elementary school opening and the Pamela Creek State Road Elementary getting updated, and now even the Trane Building. How does the union handle? What is the outlook here from the teachers union perspective?
I know from the district's perspective, layoffs are always going to be the last resort, right? We want to keep people employed. We want everybody to have a job who already has a job in the district. When you're going through a consolidation process and you know that we're downsizing, the common trend is to issue maybe a 1-year contract for a new teacher. So you're brand new to our district. We're going to ensure that you have a job for 1 year. After that, things may be up in the air based on how movement goes. Typically, those 1-year contracts roll into full extended contracts because once we have people in the district that we like, that we know, they know the kids, they know our routines. Of course, we want to keep highly qualified.
Do we have a lot of old fogies that are going to be retiring or what?
I think our pool of retirees is pretty consistent every year,
okay.
And so we can, I think, reliably count on that number being pretty.
We talk about teacher shortages all the time. So those 1-year people and those people that maybe have to leave the district if they get laid off or whatever, are they going to have trouble finding a job nearby?
They shouldn't. No. I mean, there should be plenty of opportunities, and I don't see there being a huge layoff coming in the school district of La Crosse. I think it'll be a 1 or 2 here and there if necessary.
All right, that's Jill Schams, the Teachers Union President, the La Crosse Education Association President. Thanks, Jill.
Thanks.